So that came to me yesterday, so. First time.
Okay, you want me to pause it?
Okay, Rick is in the waiting room
Yeah, yeah.
and
There you go, Linda Bacon.
okay, so in the waiting room, so Dan is gonna participate remotely. I was just sending Dan a message.
I know.
Yeah. I think if he had his net, oh, wow.
Oh,
I don't see that she's had an admit all.
Huh?
I didn't see she had an admit all.
There was one up there. Okay.
Usually. Jot down who's on.
Okay, and so in order to, I just.
Get the bigger one. I think.
All right, is everybody in? Let's get the show on the road, guys. Seeing that it's just after 6:30, I would like to call the Town of Belgrade Board of Select Person, September 6, 2022 meeting to order, and we'll start with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome, everyone. So the first part of our meeting is usually public comment, but the first part of our meeting this evening is going to be introducing our new town manager. This is Lorna D. Nichols, and we are happy to have her. So we're going to do a little more hybrid tonight because it's her first day. And we're like, well, we're not going to just throw the show right at you. So Mary and Lorna are going to tag team for this one, but welcome, Lorna. And I do have their signed contract right here. Okay, so the first part of the meeting is public comment, and that is the portion of the meeting that belongs to you. You are welcome to bring items to the select board's attention that will not be covered on this evening's agenda. Is there anyone that has an issue that they would like to bring before the board that will not be covered on this evening's agenda?
Yes. Barbara Allen, Select Board. I would like, on behalf of all of us on the Select Board, to thank Mary Vogel for her great job of serving as interim town manager for August and September until now.
Thank you, Mary. The ship's still afloat. And that's what we were like, come on. Okay, so I don't see, we do have two participants remotely, so folks are gonna have to give me a heads up because this computer is not clicked on, so I won't see if anybody raises their hands out there. So one of the things that we do need to be careful of is the meeting owl. It's not great at picking up everyone's voices, especially if you've got a quiet speaking voice. So if you would have something that you would like to say during the meeting, we ask that you stand up, state your name, because the meeting minutes are also being taken remotely. So we may not know who everyone is. And when they're listening to the recording and watching the video, we want to make sure that they know who is making whatever comment. So if folks could do that, I will try to use my big girl voice because I've been told I'm not as loud as I think. So if you catch me being too quiet, call me out. All right, so first up is old business. We have a review of the August 16, 2022 Select Board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So, second.
Moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol.
Fighting the whole meeting. I can see it now.
All right, so that is open for discussion. If there are any that are like grammatical or spelling errors, if we can just highlight them and possibly give them, Mary did these meeting minutes, so if we give them to Mary after the fact, that'll help to streamline the process a little bit. 76 pages worth, that's kind of a hefty agenda. So we want to make sure we don't take up too much time, but were there any substantive changes in the meeting minutes that anyone noticed? Seeing none, I don't see that anyone had anything online. All right, I will make a motion that we approve the August 16, 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved, seconded by Barbara. All those in favor, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and is Ricky on?
Yes.
Ricky?
I'm gonna abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay, so I will say yes on those. So 4, 1 abstention. Okay, the second item on old business is a request for a bench to be placed in Belgrade Lakes Village. So we'll take a motion, to open that item.
So moved.
That item is moved and seconded. That is open for discussion. So a request came into the town, we'll just preface this, a couple of months ago. Mr. Beck approached the town, his wife had passed, and he would like to have a memorial bench placed somewhere in the town of Belgrade in her memory. So that request did come before the town, because it is town property that he's requested that the bench be placed on. He's been very accommodating with not trying to determine where it is, but a general sort of where he would like to be. My understanding is that this proposal we pushed back to the Board of Parks and Recreation, so a chance to weigh in, and they've followed up with a recommendation. And I know that there are some other concerns because there was fundraising. The benches were part of a fundraising activity with the Friends of the Belgrade Lakes Business Group. So I don't believe that anyone's intention was to step on any toes. However, when a request comes in for something to be on town property, it is not forwarded to a private organization. So that's why we're here at this junction. So I don't know if we're going to get it completely solved tonight, but we certainly are going to take at least 10 or 15 minutes and see where we can get with it. If 10 or 15 minutes isn't enough time, then my recommendation is going to be that we table it for a future meeting. And if we need to have a meeting with more than one organization present, then that's what we'll do. So just want to make sure that everyone is clear on that. Is Mr. Beck
No,
available?
he was not gonna make it this evening. Prior engagement.
That's right.
So he would just be in tomorrow morning.
Okay, so he'll be in tomorrow morning. Dan, like to say anything?
Dan McClashing, Belgrade Recreation. This got bounced to our court, and me and the rec board, since Mr. Beck was waiting to hear back, and he'd been to a couple meetings and not heard any response about said bench, we went with what we thought were good options in Belgrade for a bench to be placed. A couple places like the Center for All Season, all the parks in Belgrade. But seeing as the recommendation was someplace in Belgrade Lakes, from my understanding, we either thought the Long Pond Park, that's on Lakeshore Drive, because that is in downtown Belgrade, or the Peninsula Park. And with those decisions in mind and those understanding what we were given for a task, that we decided with the Peninsula Park, as it would get the most enjoyment, it would have the most visits. I really wasn't given any other information other than to find a spot with the recommendation of the rec board to find a place to put a bench. Outside of that, that was our standing of the situation, and we did that to the best of our abilities.
Thank you, Dan. Does anyone else want to weigh in on the bench placement?
So Diane Oliver, Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village, not the business group. So the Friends, as you know, did the fundraising to add enhancements to the road project that was coming through the village. And when we came to the town to do that, we told them that we would be using lamp posts and benches and bike racks to kind of booster, enhance our fundraising. And so we did that. We had, I think 15 benches, and I think we have 9 bike racks. I think there are 36 lamp posts out there. And we called it, a naming opportunity where someone that would pay a set amount fee for whether it be a bench or a lamp post or a bike rack, to put a plaque on to, memorialize a family member, talk about their camp, that Belgrade has so many sense of place things and so many memories for lots of families. And so we totally appreciate and understand Mr. Beck wanting to do something like that. I do have to say that the Friends, since the project has moved along and it's finished or whatever, there's lots of people. We have a list probably of 9 or 10 people, that have since spoken that would love to have a bench, to memorialize somebody or to talk about their family or their experiences or whatever. And I also will say that we have 1 lamp post still available, that could be done. And so we have no problem with, putting a bench someplace. I mean, I think at the time we were trying to put them along the sidewalk because that was the focus of our intentions. I think Peninsula Park's a wonderful place, probably down at the center for all seasons, there could be places. I think the only other thing that we wanted to note is that, we also came to the board a month or 2 ago or whatever and told you that we had hoped that there would be a phase 2 to our project, which was always to be additional parking and a comfort station, and that we would be willing to, fundraise for that, and work with the town in conjunction with that. So we just hope that that's, hasn't taken that fundraising opportunity away from us or whatever. Again, I think we also felt that we worked really hard with the state and, picked a company that was reputable. I think the benches have been up a couple of years. They still look good. The plaques still look good. I would love to see that the consistency remained. I'm not sure. At the time, we bought 15 benches, and I'm not sure if you can even buy 1 bench at a time. This was also pre-COVID, so there weren't the freight issues, the shipping issues, those kinds of things. So I think that's some concern to us too. And we would, love to work, whether it be with Parks and Rec or, the town, if we had another kind of another group or whatever to make sure that, things just kind of stay consistent and nice and whatever. I mean, we'd be willing to, I think, work through this with whoever. So we're, definitely not against anything. We just wanted to, bring our concerns of what, we saw as something that we had initiated and worked on a lot.
So consistency with the benches, of course, would be a concern. And so my understanding, because I've been a little bit on the periphery of this, is that the dollar amount that was given to Mr. Beck was reflective of what the cost was previously for the benches.
The cost of the donation.
The cost of the donation, right, to supply the bench. So how do we move forward?
Before you move forward on that, could I just ask a question?
Yep.
You have to
Kathy-
say it and talk loudly, Kathy, if you're mask on.
With the mask, Kathy Atkinson, a member of the Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village, which is the group that did this, not the business group, but the Friends. First question is that if it moves from a fundraising activity, which is what we did here, that was the means to help provide these amenities for the streetscape project. That was clearly a fundraising. By the town doing this for an individual, is the town moving into a fundraising project? Just a question there. And then my other question that I've been concerned about is that when we did this, to place these, we had to appropriately, at the select board's guidance, take this to a referendum to have the placement approved. Does that mean that adding benches like this would require that type of referendum? Would the town have to approve that in a vote?
Mary?
So Mary Vogel. So that what went to referendum was not the placement of the benches, but was to accept the gift from a private group to the whole town, because the town is now responsible for those benches, for all the maintenance and the upkeep. And I believe there was an agreement put in place between the Friends and the town of Belgrade at that time, but that's what went, not the placement of those benches.
Well, it was having them put into the town's area. Would this not be putting something into the town's area rather than on private property?
So those went on private property, except for the ones in the village green.
Right.
So that's what had to go to referendum.
There are some that are on town property. We came to the select board and asked for.
Right, and we can, and the board can accept those.
Right.
The board can accept anything on town property. We put picnic tables on, we put all kinds of things on like that. It's just town property for which we'll be responsible for the maintenance of.
Well, I don't want to get it to, it's an issue, and I'm not sure I understand the clarification here, but without dragging it out, because there seem to be differences. It would appear that the town would be selling an item. And then the need for a referendum.
The town would be selling an item. The town would be accepting the gift of a donation of $5,000 with the intention of that to be a bench.
But then would the donor have to make a separate, would there need to be a differentiation between the cost of the bench and the amount that's being donated to the town over and above that? I mean, if the cost is, I don't know what it is now, is $3,500 or something, $3,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's probably gone up in the last few years. And so if the person, does the town need to differentiate between what's reimbursement for the cost of a bench and what's a donation over and above that? I think that there's some gray areas that we need to look at, and I think everybody appreciates all the work that the Friends did to make this happen with the brick sidewalks and the lampposts and the benches and the bike racks were a way of paying for those brick sidewalks. And the look in the village is wonderful. And I think that it's important that the Friends in the town work together moving forward to try to figure out what the best way is to do that, because if there are 9 or 10 people who are already on a list for benches that the town didn't know about, and then someone who contacts the town gets to the top of the list, that's a little awkward.
And that is the reality. And the reality is that there are a handful of folks from that private organization that knew what the next plan was. So the town would have had no idea that there was a waiting list for the benches, never heard of it. So there was no intention for someone to get to the top of the list. But if we don't have the information, we can't say there's a waiting list for these benches. Would you like to be placed on this waiting list? And this is the reason that there's a waiting list. So we're coming back at this, kind of circling back, because we didn't have the information. And I don't necessarily know, there isn't a set way that we can navigate it. There,
But maybe if representatives of the Friends of the town and the rec board, get together and kind of hash out, what would make the most sense going forward. I think, rather than take a lot of time to sort of work out those gray areas here.
Right.
Maybe
which is
that
why
would
I
be
said
the-
we have
maybe that
15
would be the
minute
thing
time.
to
We got
do.
3 minutes left.
And that's good. And I'm not even so concerned about, I guess, is this what the town wants to be doing though? I mean, when we started this kind of fundraising and when we talked about putting benches and bike racks, it wasn't something that they were, interested in being involved with, so.
Melanie, Dan has his hand up.
Oh,
Thank you. I was like, somebody got time, I can't see him. Dan.
Yeah, I think it's something you're gonna have to check with a town lawyer, because the way I kind of read the way the laws work. When the Friends were doing the fundraising, they owned the equipment up until that project was completed, and then they asked the town to accept it all as a gift. At that point, they no longer own any of that equipment. So like that one lamppost that's not named, they can't name that lamppost because it's no longer their property. I think what would have to happen is this particular bench, if you wanted to talk to the person who wants to put it on and he wants to hold off and put it down as part of their next phase, they'll continue to own their property on this next phase and install benches and do fundraising with them. And then once they're turned over to the town again, they no longer own them.
But in the meantime, does the town want to get involved in purchasing and installing one bench?
Well, if we do, I don't think we should be accepting a set donation of $5,000. I think it should be a donation to cover that particular cost, and the town shouldn't make any money on it unless the person wants to donate money to the town.
Then you have the situation of people being able to get benches cheaper through the town than through the Friends for phase 2. So that again is a little awkward. So that's why I'm saying that, there's some complications that I think, since Mr. Beck raised the question, we hadn't really thought about. And I think that it would be a good idea, just to get together, 5 or 6 people and just kind of work out what the issues are, from the legal perspective, as Dan mentioned, and what the town's interest is, how much the town wants to get involved in the actual nuts and bolts, so to speak, of procuring more benches, or if it makes, does it make more sense to just fold it into phase 2, of the project, that going forward between a partnership between the town and the Friends. And there could be benches, it wouldn't have to be necessarily just in the village. I mean, people might want to have a bench at the ball field, at the town office, at the North Belgrade Community Center. There are any number of other places. And so, if the Friends are mounting a project to purchase X number of benches, it just makes sense to have them throughout the town if people want to have them in other places. So, I think that there's some opportunities that we just need some time to explore.
So Barbara, what I'm hearing is that you are making a request that we table this motion and initiate a meeting between members of the Select Board, the Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village, the Board of Parks and Recreation, and determine how best we move forward.
And maybe facilities
I was
management.
gonna say
And
If
facilities
management
maintenance as
involved in-
well, so,
Yeah,
so that we have, somebody have anybody else we should put on the list?
Jamie D on Board of Parks and Rec. That's exactly what I was gonna recommend, is that they come to our next meeting. We hash out a lot of the concerns. The only thing that was brought to the Board of Parks and Rec was placement of the bench. We were under the impression that this was already good to go and they only needed where it was gonna go.
right.
So, I mean, I think if they come to the next meeting and Mr. Beck and facilities management, I think we could hash out a lot of these concerns.
Yeah, or maybe set up a separate meeting, just so
Separate
that
meeting.
that's the
Correct.
only agenda item, because it wouldn't have to be everybody from Parks and Rec. It would just be, a couple of people from Parks and Rec. It wouldn't have to be, everybody from the Friends, just a few people so that, we can really talk things out.
I think we
Yes,
need to
that's my
shoot an
vote. That's
email
my
to the,
vote.
I think we need to shoot an email to the lawyer too as part of that to find out what we can and can't do.
So he's on vacation this week, Dan. So we'll have a list of emails for him for next week when he returns, and we'll add this to the list.
Right. And as I understand, given the timing of colder weather coming, and the lag time of even ordering a bench, it wouldn't be possible to get anything before winter sets in anyway. So,
Well,
so if
I
we
think
can't,
Probably, so let's don't predetermine whether something can be done. It is the beginning of September. So it could potentially, so I don't want for Mr. Beck to think that we're not even going to consider this until next spring.
yeah, okay, but there may not be
There
the urgency.
Right, so there may
Maybe some
may
time
not
to
be, so,
So I'm just saying the fact that Phil Socia isn't available this week,
right.
it's okay. I mean,
And we need to find out what the benches would cost. We need an actual cost breakdown on the cost of putting the benches in. And much like the signage in town, we want things to be consistent and not kind of cattywampus, so consistency among the benches and longevity are certainly things that need to be considered. So you are making a motion to table the item and pull together
An ad hoc committee
between
to,
the Board of Parks and Recreation, the Friends of Belgrade Lakes Village, a couple of members of the Select Board, and Facilities Maintenance.
Right, I'll
Yes.
second that motion.
Okay, that is moved, motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that item? Seeing none. Dan?
Yes.
Well, and shooting an email to the town attorney to see what our legal rights and responsibilities are. I'll add that to yours. Okay, so Dan says yes. Ricky?
Yes.
All right, Barbara?
yes,
Carol?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. Let's put a working group together so we work together. Okay. All right, next up on old business is the discussion and finalization of amendments to the Town of Belgrade's Commercial Development Review Ordinance. Take a motion to open that item.
so moved.
second,
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That item is open for discussion. Peter Rushton, you have the floor.
Hi, Peter Rushton from the Planning Board. So we're hoping that the Select Board got a memo that we sent to you, talked about the 2 substantive changes that we wanted to make sure that were explained. Got that?
Yes.
So for the benefit of everybody, just want to make sure we kind of review that really quickly. We need to bore people with details, but details are important in this case especially.
Do you want me to read it into the minutes?
Sure, yeah.
So
Okay.
legal record we have. So
Sure.
this is the final draft of the solar facility and other amendments to the Commercial Development Review Ordinance. For your approval and placement on the ballot of the November election, please find attached the planning board's final draft of its proposed solar facility regulations and other amendments to the Belgrade's existing Commercial Development Review Ordinance. Since you last reviewed and discussed this ordinance at your August 2nd meeting, the planning board has received comments and recommended changes from Belgrade's attorney, Phil Saucier. The final draft addresses those comments and includes the attorney's recommendations. All changes since August 2 are shown in red. There are 2 substantive changes in this draft. They are, number 1, the addition of the language discussed at the August 2nd meeting to extend the life of a permit under this ordinance for a solar facility previously approved by the planning board from a maximum of 24 months to a maximum of 48 months if its permit expired while the moratorium was in effect, preventing reapplying for approval. Number 2, the elimination of prohibitions on siting new commercial solar facilities in the shoreline zone and in the village and the critical resource conservation districts as described and mapped by the 2014 comprehensive plan. The courts have ruled that such a provision is only permissible if part of a town, if is part of a town zoning ordinance. Belgrade's only zoning is its shoreline zoning ordinance. The planning board discussed the possibility at its last meeting to amend the ordinance to prohibit commercial solar facilities in the shoreline zone in time for the next meeting. In the interim, the planning board included a new setback requiring new commercial solar facilities to be set back 250 feet or more from the normal high water line of a great pond, ponds larger than 10 acres. This would apply to all of Belgrade lakes, but not to wetlands and streams within the shoreline zone.
Thanks for reading that in. So I just wanted to make sure to mention a couple of key points about what we're doing, overarching, actually, what we're trying to do. That is the tight timeline that we have to try to get this to the voters for November. And I say that not to add urgency to it at all. It's just that the logistics of all the work that we've done for the last year or so to get us to this point and then get it on the ballot hinge really on whether or not this is acceptable language or not to present to the voters. So I just want to make sure to mention that to you. And I hope that it helps you understand where we've been coming from. The planning board has put in an extraordinary effort in a very open forum over the course of a year. And I've heard from several people from on either side of this argument about or topic, very emotionally charged at times. And after lots of negotiation and compromise, we've arrived at this language. So I just want to make sure that that's part of the understanding going into this and I'd like to be able to move forward. Thank you.
You don't want to bring it back 7 or 8 more times.
Not at this time.
Well, I have to tell you, I read through it. I read through it again. I read through it again. I highlighted, I made little things. And once again, what I do want to say to the planning board is how very thankful we are to your group. Because honestly, without the amount of work that you folks put into things like this, we are not able to move forward with a lot of the things that we need to do in the town. That being said, did anyone notice anything that was out of place, anything that they don't feel like is reflective of what we're going
I
to?
just have one little administrative error where on page 11 with the renumbering, there was just, there are 2 Ds at the top of page 11. So I've already mentioned it to Peter. So it's nothing substantive. It's just making sure that the second D becomes an E. They added an A. So that messed up the number, that messed up that letter. So that's the only thing that I would wanted to bring to everybody's attention.
And we do want to make sure that it's a clean, document that's well understood, and stuff like that it interrupts people's flow. They're like, I can't get the numbers. I hear you.
People with small minds like myself.
It's just.
Attention to
it's just-
detail.
Attention to detail.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, is there anyone in the public either joining us remotely or here in the room who has anything, any comments or concerns or suggestions? Yes.
Mark Christos from Summit Ridge Energy. We've participated a bit in the process, and it's a very good ordinance. We give credit to the planning board. But the most restrictive part of the ordinance, just that I think that folks should be aware of, we've been working for the last year with several landowners optimistically to build a large solar project, about 65 acres. And this ordinance would not allow that, as you know, because it only allows cutting of 10 acres or less. And so when you put things in the perspective of other solar farms in the state of Maine, they're all bigger than 10 acres. So just acknowledging the fact that if another developer approaches the town, just be aware that the benefit to the townspeople, the benefit to the environment is going to be minimized by the fact that you're very restrictive, which is fine. We acknowledge that on the acreage. An average solar farm now is about 50 to 60 acres to provide about 300 or 400 homes power. Everything else in the ordinance makes absolute sense. It's consistent with every other solar ordinance that we've seen in the state of Maine, and we have 30 projects going. And it's a bit unfortunate that the moratorium hit right before we were going to put the permit application in, and that's understandable. That's what happens, and we acknowledge that too. So I just wanted to state, thanks to the planning board. But one thought we had, and again, not sure if this is possible, but with other environmental programs, there's some opportunities like the wetlands program, say, to replicate. So in other words, if we took over 10 acres on this particular project, could we come to the town by way of something? I'm not sure it's a variance or things, but to say we'll in kind replace an area of the town or that say is not forested well or has been forested, could be reforested with that equivalent amount of acres. But I didn't see that anywhere in the ordinance, so it's just a comment.
I was over here like, I hadn't even thought about something like that. Craig.
I'm Xander, I'm part of the planning board, plus I'm a landowner in Belgrade, and a business person in Belgrade. All of our ordinances in Belgrade are a step above the state ordinances, and they're all focused to protect our lakes. So as a builder, and I have done one subdivision, our subdivision ordinance states that we can't clear cut. So I can't clear cut for a subdivision already. So that's part of the reason why we came up with this 10 acres. because it's consistent with our other ordinances. And so, to start saying, well, you could do this to do this is complicating things
Yeah.
beyond what you need to be. So this ordinance is consistent to the rest of our ordinances. Our shoreline zoning is tough. Our commercial ordinance is tough. Our subdivision ordinance is tough. I mean, I'll never do another subdivision. It's beyond me now. I wouldn't be able to afford
He's
it.
like, there are way too many hurdles that we folks have put in.
So I'll never do another subdivision. So this is the way all of our ordinances in town are being made. So this just follows suit with the rest of them.
Makes perfect sense, because we don't want to have two ordinances that are not doing the same thing. All right.
Ellen, whoops,
Yeah, go ahead, Rick. I was just gonna ask if there were any more comments. so-
all right, thanks. I just think, the planning board spent a lot of time on this. We've spent a lot of time on this. It's time to move it on and let the taxpayers make the decision. Put it out for the vote.
All right, so
That's
So
my
we-
motion.
your motion, thank you. So is your motion to approve and finalize the amendments to the Town of Belgrade's Commercial Development Review Ordinance as presented this evening?
Yes,
All right, I'd love to second that. Is there any more discussion? Seeing none. Rick,
yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, move forward. Thank you, folks. I know.
Thank you, guys.
It's not enough, but
You are welcome.
I don't have enough money, so. All right, so next up is new business. So this is the official motion to hire and approve the contract with our new town manager, Warner D. Nichols. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. And that item is open for discussion. So. the
You want to
board-
hear?
What's that?
I said, what do you want to hear?
Only good things.
Okay, so the Board of Select Persons has offered a 3-year contract for the position of town manager to Warner D. Nichols of New Sharon, Maine. She has accepted, and we are happy to have her.
I'll make that motion. We accept it?
Moved by Ricky, seconded by Barbara. Is there any more discussion? All right, seeing none. Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Right, 5 yeses. Rick, the physical contract will be here in the office. We'll sign it tonight. If you're able to come by in the next couple of days, maybe if someone could bring it out to you, would you be able to sign that way?
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, because I know we're not doing the DocuSign anymore.
I
So,
don't know. Crazy.
oh, and I'll come to your house. I'll bring you a stamp.
Now you're talking.
All right, next up on the agenda is Maine Department of Transportation, Castle Island Road closure discussion. I will take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion.
Hi.
Say Tony's here, right? Hi, Tony.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. My name is Tony Bollier. I am a project manager with the Maine DOT Bridge Program. Also present is Devin Eaton. He is a senior project manager for MDOT Bridge Program. I have a short presentation. Afterwards, we'll take questions. Is it possible to share my screen?
Yes, you can do screen sharing.
Let's see. Can the host enable me?
Yes.
I think if you click share screen.
Yeah,
down the
at the
bottom.
bottom, middle, the green. That's for if I want to share.
And go to the far right, say share.
You want to give
I want to
him,
make him a co-host, right?
You'll have to, yeah, because I think you have to make him a co-host in order for him to be able to share a screen.
Okay, I'm gonna stop share. Okay, now you are Tony.
Yep.
Let's check and see what's over there.
Make co-host. I think that's what I have. Oh,
Yeah.
that, where'd you go?
It should be able
Okay,
to
so now see if you can share your screen.
Are you seeing that screen?
Now we're seeing you.
No, so
See.
Tony, at the bottom of your screen is a co-host. Do you have the green icon for sharing your screen?
It's green.
Okay.
Let's see.
Screen, it's in the middle of the icons below.
Yep. Let's see. Here we go.
Yes.
How about now? All right, we're in business.
Yes.
Yay.
When I say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, yes, you can.
All right, so we're talking about the Narrows West Bridge in the towns of Rome and Belgrade.
Hey, Tony, before you start, can you make this full screen?
Let's see.
If you hit F5, it'll make it full screen. There you go. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm over here like, would you come and do like a side
Okay.
thing with
Okay,
Belgrade?
so I
and
can
teach
hide
them
the
to do
fun. I'll hide the thumbnail video. Not that we don't like looking at you guys. We'll still hear you. Okay.
All right, so that bridge is located on Castle Island Road, about 2.2 miles west of Route 27, which spans over the Long Pond. It was constructed in, the existing was constructed in 1985. It consists of a two-span steel bolted pipe arch culvert. This project was originally scheduled for replacement in 2024. But due to the recent sinkhole and the road closure, and now a temporary structure, MDOT is fast tracking this project for replacement this winter. Due to the right-of-way, this project will require a detour. There's not enough room to install a temporary bridge or to stage the construction, which would be building the bridge one side at a time. The proposed bridge replacement will be a 56-foot single span bridge. It'll be built with precast beams. The width of the bridge will be 24 feet, which will be two 11-foot travel lanes with 1 foot paved shoulders. There'll be integral concrete curbing with railings and guardrails on the approaches. The area underneath the bridge, between the bridge and the water, will be increased by about 5%, so there's no loss there. We are working very hard to get this project out to bid at the beginning of October. We have an in-water work window from September 10th through April 30th, which makes this a perfect time to do this project. We would anticipate that the project be complete by Memorial Day of 2023. On this slide, there's two different maps. The first one showing what would be a detour on only state routes. And this is from abutment to abutment. So that would be a 34-mile loop, take about 45 minutes. We're proposing a local route, which you can see the roads would be Watson Pond Road to Route 27. That detour is 14 miles, 20 minutes. Some of the questions that have already come up, first being, Can you still hear me?
Go ahead, sorry, that was someone in the waiting room.
I don't know what happened there. All right. So anyway, first one was winter maintenance. As far as plowing, the contractor would be responsible for plowing in the vicinity of the project. The town of Rome would be able to turn around in the public boat launch. As far as the Belgrade side, we had discussed what I thought they meant as a boat launch is the Castle Island boat launch. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. Otherwise, they'd have to basically plow to the last driveway, and it looks like there's a widened area on the road there that they might be able to turn around, but that's certainly something we can discuss. The other thing is school buses. I'm hoping someone is from the school district tonight that we can talk about that. We haven't reached out yet. We just want to get through this meeting first and see what we get for concerns. I also reached out to the Castle Island camps, and they're closed, so they are good with this. Our consultant is finishing up design. We should have that in a couple of weeks. Again, we want to advertise for bid beginning of October. Construction would go from November of this year and wrap up in May of 2023. These are some plan views of what is proposed.
Tony, are you able to forward a copy of what you have up on your screen there to the town?
Yeah.
PowerPoint, but I didn't get.
We didn't get.
We didn't get that one.
No, I added that today because I just got it today.
Oh, so slip it right in.
So yeah, I can send this. It's preliminary, but I think this is pretty much done as well. Is that one? This is profile view, like you were paddling underneath it. And then this is typical sections of, can you see my cursor? This would be the top of the deck with the integral curbing and the railings. So that is my very short presentation. We'll also be putting together a virtual public meeting. It'll be on MDOT's website coming shortly. So
You done with that?
concerns, questions, comments?
Well, there's gonna be, I'm sure, a bunch. Is anyone from the Warren Brothers here?
There was supposed to be, Travis was gonna get on.
Okay,
So
so
I don't know, I can't see from here.
I don't see that anyone is there. Let me check something here quickly.
Because there is a huge concern with snow plowing and the turnaround.
Yeah, I would think so.
So,
Right.
Ricky, do you have Travis's number? Can you shoot someone a text or a quick phone call and ask? They really need to be here to weigh in on this tonight.
I might just happen to have it.
Okay, if not, Mary's gonna run out and see if she's got it.
I
up
got
here.
it. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Get it right now.
Okay. All right, so while we wait for that, you're on the hot seat now. Lenny.
Lenny Goff, I'm the Director of Transportation for Regional School Unit 18. Thank you, Mary, for giving me the heads up here tonight. I guess the first thing I'd like to know is when is the temporary crossing that we presently have, when is that going to close down?
So they'd be removing that before they obviously get, removing the existing structure. by the time contracts are signed and the beams, the precast beams being built, we don't see much going on there until, I don't know, Devin, what do you think? Mid-November?
Yeah, I mean, probably beginning of November at the earliest is when things would really start picking up steam up there or out there. That temporary bridge will be in place for as long as possible. We're trying to provide as much time for the contractor to do the work as possible and be able to get out of there prior to Memorial Day, so that we're not impacting any of the busy season for you folks out through there when traffic really picks up across that causeway. So, you know, it's trying to provide as much time as possible while also, you know, ushering them to do it as fast as possible. So we're trying to work on that balance.
Basically looking at a couple more months.
From now.
Before it closes, yeah. You'd have at least the full month of October in all likelihood. It's going to take them, you know, at least 2 or 3 weeks to fabricate the beams, and that's like a beginning of October timeframe that we're looking for. You know, this is an emergency type project, you know, compared to one of our standard processes where there would be over a year to kind of prepare for something. You know, we had a failure out there. We've addressed it, kind of arrested it so that, you know, the slopes are stable and we spanned over it so that traffic could still drive across and through the roadway. So we've done everything we can at this point to get it back open. But it is a very temporary setup, and that itself is not going to be very user friendly in the winter months. I don't know if folks have been across it yet or gone to see it, but it's not very wide. It is a through truss type system. So not really a whole lot of place for snow cleanup through there. It requires quite a bit of maintenance throughout it being in place, just to make sure that bolts are staying tightened and things like that. So a lot of folks are going to be out there pretty frequently, just checking on it to make sure it's staying in the condition it needs to.
That is a concern also as far as where the turnaround would be on the Belgrade side of this project. That it's big enough to get the buses in and get them turned around. I know we were turning at Castle View Lane, but that's a private drive, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, especially long term. It's a long-term project. Any idea on what that may entail?
Tony, go ahead if you have an answer.
I'm not sure yet on the Belgrade side, to be honest. We're gonna have to look at that closer.
Yeah, I can say something we've done in the past is we've helped the town put together an agreement to use a private driveway for snowplow turnaround specifically. We just did that in Woolwich for those big projects going on Route 1. We worked with the town to help and kind of facilitate that. So I'm sure we could step in and help with that here. Sorry, my cat keeps jumping in front of the camera here. Lost my train of thought there. Sorry. Yeah, we've helped facilitate some of those agreements in the past, just to kind of ease the transition into doing something like that. If that makes the most sense, we can work with them or help you folks work with them. It does have to be a town agreement. Unfortunately, we don't have, if it's you guys plowing specific areas and you're looking for a town specific turnaround, it does have to be your names on the agreement, but we can certainly help facilitate that. On either side. And again, this is really fast. It's coming together quickly. So we haven't checked every box yet. Apologies for that. But, we thought we had another year and a half or so to work on this. And it kind of came up on us quickly. So we haven't dotted all the I's or crossed all the T's yet either. So it's good questions. But, that may be one we have to kind of come back to as we look at this a little bit more and prep for it. So.
And I guess the only summary I would have to this is that we were able for a couple of days to do this without adding an additional run. But I've got an idea, if we're looking at 3 to 4 months, we're probably gonna have to look at adding a bus out there. Like you said, it's 14 hours, and we never get kids in on time, so. We're probably gonna have to look at another bus.
Are there any kids on Castle View Lane? If you go down to, I was gonna say, could they turn there at Birch Lane where there was a large area that you might be able to work out a turnaround there?
I shouldn't say, we turned to Castle View Lane because I have a bus driver that lives there, so.
Yeah.
He gave us permission to turn there. It's just the easiest thing to do. And at the time, I thought it was gonna be for 2 or 3 days.
I mean, there is some space there that might be able to work something out there at Birch Lane and Castle Island Road.
Is that the last road on the right heading towards the bridge westerly?
Birch Lane is not, no, Birch Lane's up a little.
Castle View is, right?
There's one more after.
There's
that.
one more
There's
after
one more
Castle View.
Yeah, and Castle View would have seasonal residents, so there wouldn't be as much traffic in the winter as there would be in the summer, so, or even in
They have-
September.
They have some.
There's some,
year-round,
yeah, there's some year-round residents.
But I don't think there are any kids in there.
No.
That was my question, were there any kids? So
I don't.
how far down the road do you need to come?
We
think
we
about
need
the
to
Birch
get
Lane.
Pretty close to that, yeah. We're just up the road, probably 300 or 400 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could work something out there.
We also don't want to negate the fact that if we're talking about a 7-month project, that no children might move into that area. So which could throw another whole wrench. Tony, somebody may have already asked this question, but is there a reason that the temporary bridge that's there now cannot hold through the winter time? Like why the urgency to hurry up and get out bids and start tackling this project, you know, within the next month or so?
So we're limited in that work window for working in the water. That's one part of it. Is your question?
Well,
I guess
so-
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, so I guess, you know, the first thought that I had, Tony, in reading this was the folks that are going to be impacted by that. When you're traveling home in the wintertime and it's a horrendous snowstorm, everybody has their route in their head of what is their best, safest route home. And then, so we're requiring people during the worst months of the year to go 14 miles out of their way to get to where they live. And I think that's going to be the biggest concern for folks is traveling roads that they're not necessarily familiar with because they don't travel them on a regular basis. It's, you know, dark and you're, you know, so I think those are some of the concerns that jumped out at me immediately. That 4 days ago, we were saying on Facebook, high five. We got this bridge, you know, covered in record time. And then 4 days later, we get this notice to the town that this project is going to involve this closure. And my notes were October to April. Now we're talking about all the way to Memorial Day. And I know it's just to make sure that there's enough time there to complete the project. But, you know, I'm a little bit worried about the urgency and if the Ts aren't crossed and the Is aren't dotted, you know, to be sure that these are in place so that we have the correct answers for folks when they're asking us those hard questions.
So they're definitely going to leave that temporary bridge in there as long as possible. But you know, to build this bridge, it's quite an effort. It's going to take, you know, 3 months anyway of that hole being exposed. They need to build the abutments, pound in, you know, piles, and it's just, and it's in the winter, so it slows things down a little bit. And then if they do finish it up so that they can at least get traffic in before pavement, we would open it back up. Memorial Day is the worst case scenario. So we're hoping like by mid-April, they'll be able to at least get traffic on the temporary surface, gravel, and be able to get through there. And then, paving plants don't open until May, so that's why we said May.
And so, Tony, the water window that you were talking about, that means that after April 30th, you cannot work in the water at that location, right?
Correct.
Because of boat traffic or whatever.
It's environmental.
Environmental, okay, thank you.
Tony, on the current Castle Island Road, there are 2 or 3 places where it literally pours dirt into the water. Can you make sure in the design of this that it tries to correct some of that grading and sloping where you can see the dirt running right into the lake? And it's been a concern for a number of times, and people have said, well, that's just sort of the grade of the road. And it's really right, if you're heading towards Mount Vernon, it's right after the, let's see, it'd be right after the causeway. On the right is one really bad area that just dumps dirt. Is there anything being done in the design of that to make sure it mitigates as much dirt as possible?
So they are changing the profile of and geometry of that road. And all the runoff will be going through riprap. So there shouldn't be a direct discharge of sediment, but we'll
Tony,
definitely.
can you share that plan view again?
Yeah.
I think that'll be the easiest thing to kind of show the limits of where our project will impact.
While he's bringing that up, Melanie, since Castle Island Camps is closed during the winter, they have a fairly large parking lot. Couldn't we turn buses and plows around down there? It's before the project.
That's a good idea. Mr. Goff is, his eyebrows are saying, maybe not.
Well, when I went out there where they got the barricade, where they had the barricade set up, it would be real close as to whether we could get a bus in there or not. That would be tight.
And then you were saying it might mitigate the need for another bus. And of course, we're already short bus drivers, which could cause an additional burden.
Someone throw another oil in it, and I'm not disagreeing if this is when it needs to happen.
Gotta say the voice.
Bruce pollution. So the biggest thing is fire and rescue, okay? Town of Belgrade does during the day cover Rome for fire and rescue. One of our biggest areas of concern if we have is Travis Mills Foundation. So that's gonna increase our response time tremendously to there. Two, that's where our mutual aid comes from Lake Region, has comes through there to come to Belgrade for 2 of the towns that come from Lakes Region. And that's how we go to 2 towns in Lake Region. So probably the biggest thing is hopefully the fire departments that have been notified or will be notified in Belgrade, Rome, Mount Vernon, and Vienna. Travis Mills Foundation needs to be notified. And the Delta ambulance and Winthrop ambulance should be notified.
When I know you're going to pull up that profile, but is there going to be a dip from the old bridge dipping down through Castle Island and then raising up going over this, or is it going to stay at the same level?
See if I can pull it up.
Because I think that would be a concern for Castle Island if you're going up and down and up through there.
You might have to, do you have to share screen again?
Yeah, you have to make it in.
He's a co-host.
Oh, okay. I thought you pulled him out.
No.
Progress.
There we go.
So this is the profile view. There's really not much grade change compared to what we're proposing and what's there now.
There's not gonna be that, I mean, right now there is because the way you're doing a temporary bridge, but.
Right,
I-
no, the existing bridge, I'm sorry, the proposed bridge will be 6 inches higher than the existing. But they're also changing the geometry of the road, so to make it blend and match in. Also, another concern is, the slopes going to the water, they can't be too steep, so
Right.
there's not much opportunity to change grade there, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just anything that will help filter the runoff.
Yeah, anything that we're doing within our project limits, so the area that you see darkened here and showing gravel and pavement on, anything along the edges of those slopes typically has, if it's regraded, it'll have gravel out to the berm line or so the turn in the slope. And then there's what's called erosion control mixture. Sometimes it's like a mulch type material, or it is actually like a seeded mix that will grow grass and stabilize that top slope. So everything that we're doing is trying to minimize runoff as well.
Okay.
All right,
And his iPhone, Travis?
Travis, were you able to get on through the iPhone?
The iPhone was on there.
Yeah, the iPhone was on.
The iPhone's on there, but I don't know if he
Yeah.
clicked himself on to be able to speak.
Well, he's on mute, so if you can.
Yeah, Travis, are you able to unmute it?
Okay.
Hey.
There we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So is this gonna be closed right down for the winter anyways?
It will be for construction.
It will be for construction, yeah. So we won't have to worry about plowing through anyways.
Nope. Nope, contractor will be responsible for plowing in the vicinity of the bridge within the project limits. And to get to whatever, wherever the towns decide to use for turnarounds.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll just have to go to the turnaround.
Yeah, and we can work with the towns and with the limits that we define for the contractor to have to keep clean as well. To an extent, we can't have them go 3 miles from the end of the project by any means, but if it's an extra 50 or 100 feet or something like that, just to make it make sense with, areas to turn around as far as guardrail goes, they're doing it for their access more than anything. So if it makes sense for their access, there may be some language that we can put in the contract too, but we would have to certainly work with you folks on that. As we look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be something that traffic would have to be going through all night or anything like that.
No, it would be shut off with barricades on each end.
Yeah. So that'd be my only concern. But we don't have to keep it open all night.
No, do you have any thoughts of where would be a good place to turn around on the Belgrade side?
I'd have to ride down and take a look, to be honest with you, see what. I'm thinking before the first bridge there somewhere, there might be a spot, but because we're getting close to the lake there, so.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to meet up with you and take a look and see if we can figure out a spot.
Yeah, and if it's no through traffic, we'd have to turn around, there's a driveway on the right before you go down. That might work for us also.
Yeah, that's the one with the widened shoulder. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, and then if, at the end of the storm, if, we could probably sweep in, if it made your job easier to go down farther, but just as long as we didn't have to,
Okay.
wait till after the storm and sweep it out.
So, just so folks know, Dan Newman just sent a screenshot of the area right around Castle Island camps. I'm gonna just show this to you, Lenny, and so this thoughts, I think, were that would there be enough space here for a school bus to turn around? So, this area here.
Yeah. Those problems, like when I was out there, and where are they gonna park their vehicles, state vehicles?
Right.
Because when I went out there, it was probably 5 or 6 vehicles parked down.
Tony, did you hear Lenny's concern?
No, I'm sorry, what was it?
So, one of the select board members sent a Google Earth image, over where Castle Island camps is.
Mhm.
To see if there is enough turnaround space, but what Lenny was saying is where are the state vehicles going to be parked? Because if that's a hindrance to, if we are able to make an agreement, if the space is large enough there for turning around a school bus and a plow truck, but if the state vehicles are utilizing that parking for themselves, you know, we just want to make sure that if we make this agreement that A, if folks are amicable to it, and B, that, you know, if rescue vehicles need to turn around, that there's a big enough space that it's safe for everyone to be able to do that.
When I was down there, Tony, there was probably 5 or 6 vehicles parked of workers that were down in there working.
So I suspect that the contractor is going to use the westerly side for their laydown area. There's more room there. On the other side, on the Castle Island campsite, there's no room. I mean, you have guardrail and buildings. So I suspect they're going to stage on the room side.
Bruce?
That would be fine until April, but they start getting the camps ready in April. So you're gonna start having vehicles there, people there from April on. As soon as ice is out, Castle Island camps starts getting things prepped. They start getting the docks in, the camps opening and that. So, you know, you'd be good until April, but after April, you'd have to find a different place to turn around. Because you know, one of these bus drivers ended up running into vehicles being in the winter. Maybe not in the morning, but definitely in the afternoon.
And truthfully, I would question, I would want to go down with the bus and actually back in around there and
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what kind of room we have.
Yeah,
before
that would make
I
sense.
would say that that's what we're gonna do.
Well, and especially, you know, because the area would need to be plowed.
Right.
So that buses can turn around, and we all know how those snowbanks start creeping in and
And I
then.
don't know where their septic systems are there.
I think that place that they're talking about, that wide turnout is Burdett's driveway. I've seen that in the winter all the time. That's the last one down before you get to that little, where that little shed used to be. Where you start down the last corner. It's the last driveway on the right. That one's big enough to turn trucks around and buses around. Without a
It's not
doubt.
actually on Castle Island, Rick.
No, it's before you get to Castle Island. It's just before you get there, on the right. Before you come to that little marshy area.
Yeah, I'll take a ride down there tomorrow.
It's pretty wide out there. I mean, it's wicked wide.
Yeah, looking at it from Google Earth, you actually almost have to turn back on yourself to go on down his driveway. It's you
Little
have to
bit.
turn in and actually take a hard right. So you've got a big area there at the end of his driveway.
It's pretty big.
But we also may have to decide, we may still have to plow all the way to Castle Island. Because what happens if they have some kind of fire during the winter there? Town's responsible to plow to get there for insurance purposes. So that's something else we're gonna have to consider.
So the contractor will be plowing that portion anyway to get to their site.
So Tony, does it make sense to have, I don't know if it would be you from DOT, but set up essentially a meeting where the representative from Belgrade Fire from the Belgrade Fire Department, someone from the Warren Brothers, someone from RSU 18, and someone from DOT, so that we can coordinate this effort and
Should be Rome,
come
Rome Fire
and
Mount Vernon
Rome Fire
They
as
both
well.
have properties in that area that
So,
rely on us.
so that we can make sure that when this is closed, that everybody that does need to travel that for all the various entities, that there is enough space for them to turn around, and that maybe we need to pick 2 places in case one doesn't give us permission to do so. And the town manager for Belgrade. I feel like probably everybody should be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can do that. I know, you have my contact email. Maybe if you can somehow forward me all those contacts, that'd be helpful.
Rome was notified, as was their road commissioner. They were notified that this meeting was going on and that there was going to be a road closure.
All right, so at this meeting, we need DOT, we need RSU 18. Travis, does that sound amicable to you?
Very much so.
I just want to make sure that if we do this, that we can do it as seamless as possible for everyone. Okay, so DOT,
Yes,
so.
and Lorna could maybe be the one to try to set it up too. or-
Yep, absolutely.
That's
Because
easier for
Because
Tony.
I'd like
Yeah.
for Lorna to be
You
there
want me
as
to do
well.
that, Tony? I'll try to set something up and coordinate with everyone.
Yeah, that's
We-
fine.
The week of September 19th, though, I won't be around, so
The week, you will or won't?
I won't. September 19th.
So what if we, can we pull something together maybe for next week?
That works for me.
Probably sooner rather than, or even later on this week, if everybody can get it on their agenda, probably now's as good a time as any to be looking. Because we'll know what the trees look like and, all of those various entities. So Belgrade, Rome Fire and Rescue, Warren Brothers, RSU 18, DOT, town managers, is there anyone else that we think should be part of this? All right, seeing none.
Well, you may want to have Paul Anderson, select board room. I mean, you've got fire and rescue, but he would get the phone calls from something in Rome.
I think we put it out to the room select board, they could pick someone from their fire and rescue, but if we can coordinate something and then come back to the town and let us know. If there's the possibility of one or more locations.
In the Mount Vernon Select Board, because when you're driving down Castle Island Road, the left-hand side is Mount Vernon, the right-hand side is Rome.
That's
Right.
true. The advantage is they at least have a turnaround on the inside.
It's tough, well, you go some billing.
It's gonna be,
Okay.
it's gonna be complicated,
Yeah.
complicated winter,
Well,
but make it as smooth as possible.
right, absolutely. All right, well, I appreciate you folks being here. Does anyone have any more questions for Tony or Devin? All right, seeing none. Move on. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next up under new business, we have the general election, November 8, 2022 municipal ballot warrant articles. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Barbara, Carol seconded. That item is open for discussion. All right, so.
So there is ours, two of ours. I noticed with the agenda.
That's okay. I'm just gonna go off this, what's in over here.
Yeah, okay.
So the first warrant article, and I'm gonna read it out because it was a little bit confusing to me. And so I want to make sure that everybody, when we read it the same way. So it's to proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question. Shall the town authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into, where's
Persons.
persons? The Board of Select Persons to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Maine Department of Transportation for the installation, maintenance, and operation of a community water system to remedy the salt contaminated properties generally bounded by but not limited to Route 27, Route 135, and Routes 8 and 11. A copy of the cooperative agreement is on file with the town clerk's office. Bruce,
So none of the depot road is involved in that warrant?
that's why it says generally bounded by,
Okay,
But not limited to.
but not limited
okay.
to.
I just want to make sure
So-
that's covered, that's all.
So my initial reading of it was that Maine DOT is responsible for the creation and the installation, but the town of Belgrade will be responsible for the maintenance and operation. But I threw this out there to everybody this morning. So if we don't need to clarify that, and that looks okay to everyone, that it is for the installation, maintenance, that's, we're only asking for approval for the cooperative agreement.
Right,
And then we can.
work out the
we
details, and
can
we'll
work
have
out
the details separately.
details.
Yeah.
The only thing I can see, Melanie, is on the bounded by and not limited to, is because remember, we have specific language in the legislative approval of certain properties. So I don't know if you want to mention that in that, because like Bruce's question was Depot Road. I think there's only one on Depot Road that is allowed us, that allows us to hook to right now. It would have to go back to the state legislature if we're add on.
Right, but we we're just talking about, this just talks about entering into the agreement. And so all of those details would be in the agreement that would be on file with the town clerk.
Yeah, but the language in that article is a little misleading.
I would have thought that the lawyer would have covered that.
But it says generally bounded by but not limited to. So it doesn't, isn't that broad enough that if it's further specified in the article? I'm not in the article, but in
That's
the.
where
mean,
it's on the agreement.
If you want it that way, that's fine, but not limited to. Somebody could come back and say, well, I own this piece of property on the Depot Road that's 3 houses up. I want to be hooked to it, and would have to go back and say, no, you can't be.
But isn't that, but my question is, isn't that specified in the agreement?
They could
I
go to
don't-
the cooperative agreement. And
Because the
I don't bel-
property.
I don't believe so. I believe that the only thing that's where that's specified is when the law that allowed us to set up the water district.
Does anybody have a
So
copy?
the cooperative agreement isn't fully done yet because there were some negotiations in part of it. So
Right,
when speaking with Bill Saucier, I let him know that I do not need that. The last date for the public hearing on that will be, I think I wrote it down, October 8th, it's out front. Because the absentee ballot voting will start October 8th, so I need to have a public hearing on the referendum question. Today is the last day, unless you want to meet tomorrow for your referendum questions to finalize these. So I
These
need these
questions.
finalized tonight.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
As they're going forward.
Yeah, but I
And
think
so-
Dan's point is to make sure that the agreement is specific, right, Dan? That.
Yeah, one way or the other. I mean, it has to have the legislation that allowed us to set up the water district that basically listed out the properties that could be connected.
Well,
And the problem that they brought to us at our last meeting was that the properties that were part of the legislative agreement don't. Now there's the additional property that they're negotiating with separately because that property wasn't listed in the legislative agreement because it came up after the fact or the levels weren't as high.
Correct.
Right.
So
But I
as
don't,
long-
I don't see that that affects the warrant question as long as we have a little bit more time to address it in the actual
cooperative
agreement.
agreement.
Right, so
So we have until, you're
The
saying we
next
have until October 8th.
the next board meeting, right?
We have to get that.
Well, I mean, we don't have to do the public hearing. Legally, you don't have to do the public hearing until 10 days before the vote. But the thing is then we have so many people voting absentee now, that if you don't do the public hearing, they have no opportunity to hear the discussion that's taking place on the warrant article.
Right.
So that's why we've been doing it prior to the absentee ballots being released. Legally, you don't have to. You can
Right.
make the 10 days to November and, but you haven't finalized the cooperative agreement yet. But
Right.
I will need that to be able to be finalized and available October 8th.
Okay, so
Right.
when we
That's
review
when
the
the ballots
cooperative
get
agreement,
released.
let's just make sure that that legislation is
That
referenced.
the wording is.
And that that
appropriate.
wording is correct, as Dan suggests, right, Dan? Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as, like I said, people can realize that not everybody can be hooked onto that, not without going back to the state and having them add properties to that legislation.
So do we say generally to remedy the salt contaminated properties already identified and generally bounded by, but not limited to? Would that take care of that, Dan?
It's either that or you can have all that and then another sentence that says as listed in the, and I have to find out exactly what it's called, the legislation that authorized the town of Belgrade to form the water district.
Water district. All right.
So what are you changing?
Well, I
But,
just
but
want to
but
make
do we
sure.
really, do we really need to change it if everything, if these details are specified in the cooperative agreement?
Because in the cooperative agreement, it will list the
It was
legislative.
listed.
I don't think,
Decision.
I don't think you need to be that specific if you're providing a copy of the agreement.
Right,
Right.
And you would post that with the warrant,
that's right.
when,
You have to.
just like an ordinance, you would
Yeah.
post it with the warrant.
Yeah.
It would be made available here in the office, online.
Right.
You could put copies with the absentee ballots if you mail them out.
No, absentee
You
ballots
don't.
only will go in those, yeah, so it's up to the people to educate themselves. on
Gotcha.
it or to-
And it'll be on the town website.
Yes, it'll be on the town website, there'll be a link on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
We'll have it posted at all the locations where we do posting as part of that warrant.
But really, Dan, all you're asking in the warrant article is just for approval to enter into the agreement.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I said with that language in there, talking about where it is and bounded by, I don't necessarily think that even needs to be in there. I
I
think,
think that's what the
The
attorney
attorney
provided,
did,
so
yeah.
we could just go with that and.
yeah,
ensure
we can do that, but like I said, I don't think the agreement will probably have all the paperwork for the water district in it, because that's nothing to do with, the state at this point. That's us setting up a water district. So what we're gonna have to do is make sure we've got that as an accompanying document as part of that agreement.
Yep,
Yeah, we can do
we
that.
can do that as part of the agreement.
Does anyone see anything else with that first warrant article?
It's good to know.
And we agree we don't need to change anything.
So
Other
are we
than
doing
the-
them separately?
Yes, we have to do them separately.
It shouldn't be board of select persons. We do need to correct.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll change that.
Yeah.
All right, Rick?
Do we have a motion?
Oh, sorry. Take a motion to approve the.
So moved.
And
warrant
seconded.
article meeting as presented, moved and seconded. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky?
Get it to the taxpayer, yes.
Dan?
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Let's move that warrant article forward to the November referendum. Okay, the next warrant article.
Oh, and do you want a motion for a public hearing at the same time?
Will we motion for a public hearing at the end of these?
Let's do that.
Yeah, we'll do all.
I just
four
want to make sure
and
to
then-
do it.
Okay, the next one is to proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question. Shall the town adopt the proposed amendments to the commercial development review ordinance enacted by referendum on March 2, 2001? A copy of the amendments is on file with the town clerk's office. Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That is open for discussion. Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we move that warrant article as presented for the November 8th referendum.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky,
Yep,
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. We'll move that one forward to November. All right, the next one is to proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question. Shall the town accept excess funds from the First Responders Memorial Committee and authorize the town to set up and be the administrators of a perpetual care fund designated for the ongoing maintenance and or updating of the memorial? Take a motion, to open that.
So, second.
Okay, let's see, rock, paper, scissors. Carol motioned, Barbara seconded.
Just trying to do things more.
Okay, does anybody have anything about that or anything that needs to be corrected?
I think that's fine.
All right, seeing none, I make a motion that we approve this warrant article as presented.
Second.
So moved by me, seconded by Carol. All those in favor, Ricky,
yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, the next one is to proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question. Shall the town ratify the vote of the Board of Select Persons to take the road paving overage of $32,328.96 from the Public Works Road Maintenance and Paving Capital Reserve account to cover the additional expense of the 2022 road paving budget? Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That is open for discussion.
Can we say
All right.
there are adequate funds in this account to cover
Yeah.
the expense?
and
But-
Jason's all good with it?
We already took the money out, basically it's just ratifying your decision to do that.
Right, remember,
Yeah.
Ricky, this was part of the 15% over that we could do with a road budget, but we have to
Yeah.
ask the taxpayers for forgiveness. All right, if there's no further discussion on that, I make a motion that we move this warrant article to the November 6, 2022 municipal referendum as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Carol. All those in favor, Rick,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All
And
right. I
and
make a motion-
Melanie,
Yeah,
these warrant articles, they're gonna be just like the ones we have at town meeting. Are they gonna have the recommendations of the select board at the bottom?
well, they
should.
should. So they should all say select board recommends 5-0.
Well, I don't know if Ricky recommends
Because
all
we're
of
just
them, so,
moving them forward.
So we had
Right.
historically done that on a referendum. We
Oh,
could do
did
it
you-
at town meeting.
Did you hear Mary, Dan?
yeah, I understand what she's saying, but there's still a written warrant article.
Yes, it is.
So they really should have our recommendations, whether we want for or against them.
I think you're requiring, when you're asking for money, you have to have that.
So there's no money, no money, no money. And the bottom one.
The bottom one has money.
If there's money,
only
then
one.
it's usually the budget committee also.
Right, so but our budget committee is only advisory, they're not.
They still want the monetary items though. Do we have to have those as part of this evening?
No, I'll send it out to them tomorrow. How's that?
That's the right answer, Mary. It's like we have until tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow's the last day.
All right.
But if we have to approve, why don't we approve them tonight?
That's what I was just
Right.
gonna say.
Okay.
So for select board recommendations on only article number 4. It's the only one with money. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Which one are we on?
We're on the only one that the select board does a recommendation on, and the budget committee, which will be the one that has the money in it. So just to take the overage. for
Yes.
the- So Ricky says yes. Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. So select board recommendations 5-0.
So we don't need to give a recommendation on the other 3.
They're not, no,
There's
you're
no
not.
money.
Right, there's no money.
So,
Yeah, but we normally always do in the, when we do our budget stuff, we recommend all articles, yes or no. And the budget committee only recommends whether, if they have a money value.
Right, right.
All right. So on article number 1, Rick,
I'm gonna vote no.
okay, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna say yes to that. So 4 yes, 1 no. Okay, article number 2, the voting by secret ballot on the proposed amendments. Ricky,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses on that one. And the third one, so excess funds from the first responders. Carol,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll say yes on that one as well. So select board recommendations 5-0. Okay, I'll take a motion to set the date for a public hearing on the municipal referendum articles for October 8th. So you
So
said,
it's the first meeting in October, is that the 3rd? We'll have a GA public hearing then.
The 4th.
The first.
October 4th.
okay, so I'll take a motion to set the date for the public hearing to be October 4th at 6:30 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Rick,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Sounds okay. Okay, next up, we have a request for proposals for fuel, propane, and off-road diesel. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Second.
Those items are moved and seconded. That is open for discussion. So the fuel, propane, and off-road diesel, this particular one says that all bids must be received no later than noon on Thursday, September 15th. And the Belgrade Select Board will review them at its meeting on September 20, 2022. Does that give us enough time to get that out there?
So I just want to review one change that Nick and I made is we took the diesel, off-road diesel was 600. We used like 13 to 1400, I think it was. It's on your spreadsheet on the last page. So we increased that up to 1500. So after talking with Paul Meta, he is recommending that we wait for a longer period of time because the numbers are dropping significantly and he would hate to have us lock in right now.
Right.
So I'm gonna just suggest that you wait to do this in another month. And,
So
the
we
only
just
reason
take-
that
just
we
take
did it
notes.
is that we're not under contract right now, we're paying market price. And the school got in touch with us like they usually do annually to piggyback on them with their bidding, because they put up their fuel prices up to bid as well. So we provided the numbers.
What about KB Cog?
No, because we weren't really looking to do, but that came forward, so we thought we would send this off to KB Cog. See if there was any option there, but when Paul called and said, Mary, you really need to tell the board to wait maybe a month, because he feels that the prices are gonna drop even more.
Significantly.
Right.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we don't have any hurricanes, anything, I've been told we could see it up
So
to
this-
$1.
Yeah, this will pretty much be the RFP, but we'll change all the dates and everything in it. Lauren can go ahead and make all those changes.
And you got an election coming, so.
But our numbers are correct, so the numbers that we'll need in gallons, those are all correct.
And can we find out how to spell Corey's name, whether it's EY or just Y?
Whose name?
Corey Alexander, because it's,
only RY.
okay. Well, on the
EY
first page, it's spelled EY, spelled two different
Oh,
ways.
really?
So
Okay,
just
all right.
Decide which is, let's decide which
Sure
is
that we
right.
get that right, okay.
Do you have
First page of what?
The first page of the RFP,
It says EY.
EY for
It's
Corey
just
Alexander,
RY.
and then the third page, it says Y.
Gotcha. First,
Do you have a list of companies you're sending that out to?
We do not, we just use the list that we used to have. And, just all the big fuel companies, but not everybody, it's not always apples to apples, because not everybody provides the propane, not everybody provides the off-road diesel. So,
Because I know like for Fabian, it's a certain person it has to go to for.
maybe you
bidding.
can get that contact information.
Okay.
When that does get ready to get sent out, but that's the recommendation from Paul anyway, so I said I would pass.
Mary, the only other thing is to space down so bidder information comes at the top of the last page. There's
Oh,
room
I
to-
know, I
to
saw that,
respace it.
but I know, so we didn't change anything, that's the way it
Yeah.
was.
No, it's just all those little
Apparently-
things
And
that
and on
you-
the first
Apparently,
page,
it was
contractor
that way
obligations.
last year.
Yeah.
Contractor obligations, the heading is on the bottom of the first page.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, I saw them all, I'm like, oh, that's all messed up. Okay.
all
Not a
right,
big deal.
so I guess I'm looking for a motion to table the RFP for fuel, propane and oil
October
until
3rd,
the
4th?
October 3rd meeting or 4th meeting? 4th.
And
So
want to get in
moved.
touch base because Paul and I had been emailing back and forth. And she can touch base with him.
Yeah, I did reach out to him today, so just to introduce myself to him.
Perfect. Okay,
Do we have a motion?
so
I moved it.
moved, is there a second on that?
Second.
Barbara seconded, okay.
Sorry.
Come on.
That's
Honestly,
okay.
I'm done.
That's open now for discussion. Oh, is there any more discussion? Bruce?
Just one thing is, I would try to push a 30-day on that, just because the fuel price could drastically, it's October where you're gonna see the biggest fuel decrease, I think. That's what they're talking, mid-October. It's because we all know it's because of election.
Well, if we put the RFP on the October 4th one, and then we set at least a 2-week, do you say set a 2-week window or a
Do a 2 or
30-day
3,
window?
I do probably a 3-week window that you
3-week
get closer to
window
the
to
end
get
of
the
October.
proposals back.
Yeah,
And then if we did that, we wouldn't be able to approve the contract till the beginning of November, but that still gives us time.
right.
Okay, is that okay, time frame wise in the town office?
Think so?
Unless Paul says something that, Paul
Right,
says
unless
something different.
Paul, because Paul's gonna let us know,
Right.
because he's working in the best interest. He's a taxpayer here too. in
Oh, I know,
Belgrade, so.
and that's what he's always said, is, if you have the ability to help your town, it's your obligation as a citizen to do so. So we appreciate the fact that he does that. Okay, so, oh, sorry, I gotta take a vote on that. Ricky? Okay, Dan?
Yes.
All right, Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
5-4, we'll table that until the 10-4 meeting. Okay, so next up on the agenda is code enforcement officer. And I don't see that
him
he's
on there.
joined us. So. We appreciate that.
He's provided a written report.
He has, but there are questions on some of them, and there's some questions that have come up about ones that aren't here.
So he will be gone by the time the next meeting comes around.
And it was requested that he be
So maybe
participating
Lauren
at
can
this
follow up with
meeting.
him when he comes in tomorrow. And then it's some answers to some of those questions that we may have. Or anybody else.
So do we want to read his synopsis into public record?
Do we want to what?
Do we want to read his brief synopsis into public record?
Yeah.
So the board in the town of Belgrade requested that our current code enforcement officer be present at tonight's meeting because the code enforcement officer has given his resignation to the town. So his last date that he would like to be available is September 15th. So we requested that he come and apprise us of where he's at with various code enforcement actions, and he's chosen not to do so. So his letter dated September 1, 2022 says, to whom it may concern. This is an update overview of what I have going on from a code enforcement standpoint. The barn at the Seven Seasons Inn, which is actually the Seven Lakes Inn, has a pending internal plumbing permit. I believe that a plumbing line from the barn was tied into the existing septic system. This was done without a permit. Before an internal plumbing permit is issued, the pipe from the barn to the septic needs to be dug up and inspected. Also, the owner needs to get a permit for that job and pay twice the fees as it was done and permitted. If a bedroom is added to the barn, the septic information needs to be evaluated to see if it can pump an additional 90 gallons per day, as is the plumbing code.
So I just want to stop right there. So we can't ask him to pay twice the plumbing fees because we don't have anything in writing that says you pay twice the plumbing fees. The only thing that we have in writing is for building permit fees, or if you start without a plumbing permit. So the plumbing fees are set by the state for the most part, but we don't have any clause in there that says anything about starting or doing something without a permit.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
State of Maine has it in the law or in our code.
That's what I thought.
It's
part of the law.
double, so if you don't get a permit, it's a double fixture fee. Also, that needs to be turned over to Maine State Plumbing Inspector, so they can address the person that did the work unpermitted.
So
That's our other question is that there is a plumbing contractor that has done the installation and knowingly did the installation without a plumbing permit.
Correct.
Do we have the legal authority
So
to?
he did go to the state. He did go to the state.
Who's
He
he?
talked to the
Who's-
state.
who's he?
The code enforcement officer.
Richard.
Yes. He spoke with the state, two different people at the state, and they said, there's nothing that can be done. They said the most that you can do is ask them to dig it up, you inspect it, and then have them pay the fee, and that was it.
But when it says the barn has a pending internal plumbing permit, pending means he has applied for, they have applied for it.
They already applied for it. Alan Lavelle was supposed to come and do the work, and he's been put on hold, but that was a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. So I'm not sure what the status of that is right now.
But what was done without a
Stop
permit?
work.
So my understanding, and this came from you, Mary, was that there was a cease and desist order put on the Seven Lakes Inn to stop what was happening. Correct?
Right, until
I don't
Richard
see
can
that
get
reflected
down there.
here.
Yeah, I don't see that here either.
So I guess
There's nothing posted either, is there?
there's
on
nothing
site?
posted.
So somebody should contact Mr. Day at the plumbing board. He's the state plumbing inspector. And if nothing else, have you put it in writing, there's nothing the state can do, because I know as a master plumber, that's a big thing that they come after you for, because I had a contractor go online and get my license number and use my license to do a project and didn't get a permit, after the fact. And that was a big thing. I almost lost my license over that.
So I'm going on what Richard is telling me. I haven't asked for documentation to say, I'm proving to you, I called the state. You know, he called the state, he spoke to two different people, one person referred him to another person, and he says he spoke to that person also, so.
So is there documentation? So one of the things I know that we'd asked for in hiring a new code enforcement officer was document. So you have not, in your time as interim town manager been privy to the documentation that the
I have
code
not
enforcement
seen.
officer has been?
I've seen the
doing-
plumbing permit, and I saw that, but it's my understanding there was no permit for hitching the plumbing up to the septic system that wasn't hitched up. That's the part that he's going after them for.
Does it make any difference to the fact that I know you've all seen what's attached to my deed, where there was a toilet there that probably has not been used since the 1950s? Definitely was not hooked up to the new septic system that Dick and Martha Skeel had put in. Also, it's attached that there will be no more plumbing added. They are on my water, my well, and I am not going to take a chance of having my well go dry because of something that they're planning on doing.
Jan, can you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jan Patrick. In case nobody knows me, oh, maybe she doesn't.
I actually have met you many years ago.
Yeah, but I'm 75, so I don't remember anything.
Yeah, but she remembers there's been a toilet in there since the 50s.
It's
So
that-
you don't miss much, girl.
And the only reason why I know that, and first of all, if they were gonna put a bedroom there, you can't tell me that they're not planning on putting a shower in there and another sink in there. There was Nora O'Donnell used to stay up there. She worked at the Locust House. And I was 13. And so that's when that room was used for the next couple of years, but then the Locust House closed down. And so it was in the 1950s. So that shouldn't even be able to be put into that septic system.
But in the deed, it says that there was, at
A
the time, there
toilet,
was a
right.
toilet, a shower, and a sink.
No,
It
no, no,
does
no,
say that
no,
in the
just a
deed.
toilet.
Does
No,
it say that
in the deed, it says a toilet, shower, and a sink.
It
It
does,
says a
yeah.
shower with two.
All right,
Two
my husband's the
faucets.
one that put that together with Gene and John Bailey.
But none of that was hooked up to the current septic.
No.
I know that for a fact, because I was in there several years ago. So the other thing that needs to be checked on is the septic design. And you need to know what that septic was designed for. Was it designed for only what's in the existing house? Or did it include the barn? That's a big thing with anything with plumbing laws, is you gotta know what your septic design is. Was it designed for 4 bedrooms, 8 bedrooms, 12 bedrooms?
All of those are online.
Right, should be on,
You
well,
can pull it right up.
Well, so I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn because Gary Fuller and I had a conversation prior to his passing. And he told me that he told the current owners that they couldn't be permitted for anything more than what they are currently because the septic would not handle it.
and the only reason I know
And the
that
parking.
is the prior owner that had the pizza.
Yeah.
thing, he wanted to put the kitchen and all that stuff out in the barn, and he could not. He had to put it inside the building.
So that's why the commercial kitchen is inside the building.
And was that permitted with the septic? I don't know.
I
what-
didn't do it, so I
I don't know what's required to
I
have a
don't-
commercial kitchen versus a regular kitchen. but-
have no idea what was permitted, not permitted, 'cause I
Okay.
didn't do the project. I know if I had done a project that was permitted.
But also, it's not a commercial well.
Right.
They are not supposed to have a commercial business there.
Okay, so one of the things that I just want to make sure, and the whole reason for keeping the board apprised of this is that we have 2 code enforcement officers from 2 other towns that are offering to assist us while we hire a new code enforcement officer. So I want to make sure that the hot button items are not missed. Because I want to make sure that this stuff is followed up on. If there's anything else legally that we need to do for any of the issues in town, we need to make sure that we do what we need to. So the second item, Kate, did you want to weigh in on that?
Sure. I just, as you said,
Just
Mel,
identify yourself, Kate,
I'm sorry.
just identify your full name.
Oh,
for minutes.
Kate Beals, and we're abutters to the property, on the Long Pond side through, the Village Inn property, and what you had just said, Melanie, is what the many conversations I'd had with Gary Fuller, that that particular property is permitted as a grandfathered as a 4-bedroom B&B, and that's the only thing that it was permitted for. Nothing else would be allowed, just because of the various ordinances, and our concern has always been the parking. So again, if construction's going on where there's adding and changing, with an intention to do other things, I think kind of the concern has been, nobody really knows what the intention is, and if permits aren't being, applied for, and work is being done, and then sort of an after the fact permits, are being applied for after the work is done, that's a concern, just because of the fact that the parking is so grossly limited. And that's kind of where, our concern has been, which I've mentioned to, I had the opportunity to speak with Jordan. I don't know if she's one of the owners or a family member, but, she's kind of running the business. And I've expressed that to the family many times. So, again, Gary had sort of adjudicated all of this and communicated everything, all of these details to everyone. And I think that's just been the concern. I think from, my perspective as an abutter with, a business where parking is so crucial, and Jan, I think for the same reason. So, if work is being done, it's just a question of following, the letter of the law and the ordinances, and understanding what the intentions are and what's actually being done, and why, and with respect to people who live in the village and work in the village, and are taxpayers, and again, following all of the statutes and permits and state licenses and fees and everything else. So again, just from what I understood from Gary, it was a grandfathered 4B&B and bedroom in, and nothing more than that. So I don't know that what the intent is, but when I did speak to the one of the current people working there, one of the owners, it just wasn't clear that was understood. So that's been a concern of ours, or of mine, at the Village Inn, really, as it kind of comes down to the parking and the existing businesses in the town, and everything else. So
We appreciate that, Kate. So so my intention, and I believe the town's intention, is these big items, we're not going to let just drop by the wayside. So we may be having some changing in our code enforcement, but the code enforcement officers who have agreed to step in and assist the town are well versed in this. And I don't think either one of them is going to shy away from making sure that if there are not proper permits in place, what we need to do to follow up, and what do we have for legal responsibility.
I think the question that I have is that, or the statement that I want to make, is that even if their fees are doubled because they have not got a permit, that's not going to make any difference whatsoever.
Doesn't seem like enough of a deterrent.
I mean, he's apparently the father has got a lot of money.
Well, and so that isn't something that we necessarily can do here, but I think one of the
Right,
things that
but
we need to
if-
figure
but-
out is.
What is the town going to do? Pay the double fees, are they gonna just let this slide because the fees have been paid?
No.
Or are you gonna make them reverse everything and go back to what it was originally?
Well, so I think legally, we're gonna have to see what the town has for what we can stand on. We know how it works in other, this isn't in the state, but I think that the town attorney is gonna need to weigh in.
The
and
biggest
see.
thing is the design of the septic system. If it's only designed for a 4-bedroom B&B, that's all it is. You can't add anything to it without adding to the septic system.
And then if
That's
you,
main
and
state
if
law.
you've done it without a permit, I would hope that there's something that says you have to revert it. But, and if not, what do you do to make sure that if this was done without a permit, that it isn't adding to a septic that isn't designed for that?
So I believe that falls under the building and plumbing permitting. So that's why if you're doing the build, when you apply for building permit, you apply for plumbing permit. If it's something that's being renovated, that's something that the code enforcement officer will say yay or nay to before it even gets in the process that we're in. But unfortunately, they went ahead without getting the permit in. So now that's gonna be up on the town. It's gonna probably entail attorney
Mhm.
stuff. Unfortunately, I don't like that, but
Yeah. Okay, the next thing is that Alana York at 142 Woodland Camp Road put granite stairs into the water with only a permit by rule from the DEP. Additionally, she laid large flagstones on the property without a permit. She has since filled out permits for both and will go before the planning board on 9/15/22. The results of that meeting will determine if the work is all set or if there needs to be some corrective action. My understanding on that is that there would also be an additional penalty if you do work without a permit.
so I want to comment on this.
Okay.
Because I'm very frustrated with this. This is happening a lot in this town. The people who got the theory is they can do it and we'll suffer the consequences afterwards because the town is not gonna do it. And that's a problem, becoming a very big problem in this town. The stuff that's happening throughout this town. I mean, it's like, I don't know if there's any ordinance or anything, for instance, for people make sure their property taxes are paid up to par before you get a building permit or anything like that. That should be a thing. The other thing is we should have penalties for people that do stuff that don't get permitted and does stuff, not to code or not to not to the shoreline zoning. It's just, I work on lakes a lot and I hear all the time, that's a big sin, you hear. We'll just pay
the fine,
right.
because the fine's not that big.
Okay, so let's stick
All
to.
right, so number 3, I currently have 8 shoreline permits, 2 of which are incomplete. I'm trying to get the required information before I leave. All permits are on my desk with planning board dates attached. My
So
incumbent
by
will-
permits, he means permit applications, right?
Yes. Permit applications, yeah, should be permits on his desk with planning board dates. My incumbent will need to be trained on the iWork app for code enforcement. There is a binder for such in my office with pertinent information enclosed. There's a general information folder in the bottom drawer and file folders on the desk that will be of use to the new CEO.
I think by incumbent, he means his successor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be showing there various things in the office and where I maintain files and folders. I've agreed to also help a successor on a Saturday to get them up to speed on things. It's been my pleasure serving the town of Belgrade Select Persons Board and Planning Board alike. Sincere regards. Is there nothing else? I know there were 2 other businesses that complaints were made on, and there's nothing here. Do we know if there's any other actions? What's that?
I don't. I don't. So if it's a business application, we've gone to planning board.
I don't believe either one had an application. So two businesses operating in the town of Belgrade that we've received various complaints on that did not come to the board or go before the planning board for applications.
I'm unaware of those.
One,
I
yeah.
am unaware of those.
So Richard is aware.
Okay.
So hopefully
He didn't share
he'll follow up. Does the town have the password to his computer?
Oh, yeah. We have the password to his computer. I have a login to iWorks too. But
Okay,
it's-
and then one other thing quickly, you had mentioned something about iWorks, and is there?
And I talked to her today.
Okay.
So I finally get a chance, quiet chance to talk to her today. We won't be charged the additional $1,000 fee. We're gonna get the information that she's looking for to be sent over. I'm not sure the format that she wants it.
So what was the fee for? So Mary and I had a brief conversation about iWorks and the code enforcement software that we bought. And then there was possibly like a penalty or something that we were gonna have to
Because
pay.
we weren't gonna be fulfilling up part of the agreement to upload parcel IDs. And also that Richard was getting done, and I did question her about her statement, basically saying that it wouldn't be in use. And so I did follow up with that and said, you know, why is there a penalty for that? It is our intention to hire somebody. It's not gonna be forever not used, maybe a month or so. So and she kind of took it back and said, you know, that wasn't what she meant to say. She put it in an email, so.
I pulled that email. So when Richard signed the contract on behalf of the town, he essentially was agreeing to post the portal home link within 90 days of the day the contract was signed, or pay in additional $1,000 for iWorks time.
I'm getting it posted to our
Those-
website.
Those 90 days will be complete on September 20. And what they need is, as far as the items for setup, they still need parcel data, shape files to import into the system. They need to see all active code enforcement cases and the actions that have been taken regarding them recorded in the code enforcement module. Unfortunately, we cannot move out of setup without someone at our town knowing how to use the system. In this situation, what they could do is move the account into review status, which means we're still paying for the system. It's still running and available to us, but the setup has been put on pause. And then they would follow up with us once a month to see if we have a new employee ready to use or oversee this program. And then they would resume training and setup once that is the case.
So we've had this system for almost 90 days with a code enforcement officer
And
in
it's not
place,
been
and
set up.
it's not been set up.
Well, the whole thing has been set up. Richard has been training at least once or twice a week on iWorks, as I was supposed to be, but there were other duties that required my attention. And I did not do the training because it's a 2 or 3 hour training every time you sit down. And there are a lot of components of this program that we are never going to use here. We're never going to use them.
Well, don't, never say never.
No, we won't. We won't because it's built for a much larger municipality.
But if it helps us do a better job, if it helps. our
Organization.
Yeah, if it helps our
But we
organization.
have
do
to
a better
enter
job.
the information.
You have to
Keep it
enter the
organized.
information.
Right. So we need a code enforcement officer who will.
Enter the information.
Right, and we don't know what Richard's entered in. Richard doesn't know how to send out parcel IDs. They want certain formatting, so we'll send the parcel IDs out this week. We'll get the link posted to our Town of Belgrade website. And basically that was satisfying them.
All
I
right,
think that extra $1,000 would be if we were going to make them do some of the work of putting that information in, right?
That wasn't what I understood it to be.
Pay in additional $1,000 for iWorks time. So we were gonna post and get everything done. And it almost sounds like if we're just going to send them something and maybe them format or enter it, I don't know. That was my sense. I've reached out to Alyssa on this email to try to get some additional information too. And printed the quick start guide, which doesn't seem that bad. There's several pages, but it really walks you through step by step. It's a PDF file if anybody wants a copy to take a look.
Go for it.
I'm over here like, let me see
I
where
don't
I
have
can
anything better
squeeze
to
that. All right. So next up on the agenda, we have abatements and supplements. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That is open for discussion. Thank you, Jan. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so the first is Robert and Sylvia Epping, and an abatement will be granted in the amount, or recommended in the amount of $106.12. And the abatement is to correct the assessment of the land, and the acreage has been updated. Take a motion to approve that abatement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Rick,
Yes.
Dan,
Abstained.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4, 1 abstention. Okay, the second abatement request is on Depot Pit LLC. And that is Depot Pit, map 51, lot 9, to correct the building value. The building is in poor condition. Take a motion to approve that abatement in the amount of $844.36.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Ricky?
Yes.
Okay. Dan?
Abstained.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4, 1 abstention. And just so everyone knows, Dan is abstaining because he's in the legislature and he cannot vote on these. Okay, next is Jonathan and Ruth Bayless in the amount of $319.14. The abatement is 22-03. And the abatement is because the homestead exemption was missed. Take a motion to approve that abatement.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. There's no further discussion. Ricky?
Yes.
Ann?
Abstained.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4, 1 abstention. Next, we have Julie, David, and Joseph Oliver in the amount of $224.55, abatement number 22-4, map 13, lot 84-3. So -3 ON or just 84-3? It's just 84-3.
So it's 84.
Yeah, the on
Should be an on. Trailer.
Okay. And then to correct, so 83-3, to correct ownership of mobile home, the Olivers purchased lot 84-3, but the sale did not include this mobile home. Is that, I'm assuming that needs to be included there. There's no supplemental associated with this because the homestead exemption is larger than the value. No taxes due. So the abatement is in the amount of $224.25. I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Moved by me, seconded by Carol. There's no further discussion. Ricky?
Yes.
Ann?
Abstained.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4, 1 abstention. Next up is Mark Dameron. And one second, I put my page too quickly. Mark Dameron, abatement number 22-05, map 10, lot 4. And it is to correct and remove a building assessment. All buildings were gone prior to April 1, 2022. Make a motion that we approve that item in the amount of $530.61.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion. Dan?
Abstained.
Rick?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Okay, 4-4, 1 abstention. Okay, next up, we have Michael and Julianne Donahue. Abatement number 22-06, formerly map 26, lot 41. This lot was combined with that land back in 2012, a trio error. Caused this account to be live and produced a tax bill. So the abatement, I recommend the abatement in the amount of $2,759.17.
So moved.
So moved, I moved it, you seconded. Okay. There's no further discussion. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstained.
4 and 1. 1 abstention. Okay, next we have Mary Susan Lawrenson. And abatement number 22-07, supplemental 22-1. Mary Susan Lawrenson, map 30, lot 3A-1. This abatement and supplemental are to correct ownership of this lot. The March 7, 2022 deed was never received. I'll make a motion that we approve that. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. So is there a supplemental tax? Because there's nothing for that under supplemental.
Melissa and William Grouse.
Is
The
not,
supplemental is to them. Do not have that page. now.
so the supplemental, so.
One
the-
offsets the other.
Gotcha. So the supplemental, I guess I was assuming that had something to do with Morrison. So wouldn't it be an abatement to Morrison and a supplemental to the others?
Yes, that's the way it's written.
Right. Okay, I just want to make sure it was clear. Okay, so I recommend the abatement in the amount of $2,759.17.
No, 480, 41.
48, 41, 62.
Oh, God, sorry. $4,841.62. Yeah.
And the supplemental, we can do it all at once.
Well, the supplemental will be a separate.
Second, or so moved, whatever, whoever, wherever we're
Okay,
at.
I moved it. You seconded it. All those in favor? Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yep.
Dan? Danny abstaining?
Yep, still abstained.
4 and 1. Okay, 1 abstention. Okay, then we have supplementals. Melissa and William Gross. Supplemental in the amount of $4,841.62. I'll make that recommendation.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Rick?
Yep.
Dan?
Abstained.
4 and 1. Okay, next up on the supplementals, we have David and Nancy Mills. These buildings were not discovered during our annual new construction site visit. Supplemental 22-02, David and Nancy Mills, map 4, lot 45. Make a recommendation that we move that supplement forward, $747.47.
Second.
Again, second, if there's no further discussion, Ricky,
Yes.
Pepper,
Yes.
Carol,
Yeah.
Dan.
Abstained.
All right, 4 and 1 abstention. Okay, next we have the municipal warrant. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. That is open for discussion.
I got a question on it. And I'm going to the Dalton house again. Why is the light bill so much more at one of the apartments than the other? I didn't think anybody was in them.
Nobody's in the house, somebody's in the apartment.
Somebody's living in 10, but not in 8, right?
So that's why. Okay, that answers my question.
Because otherwise, what are they hooking up over there? And what is 18 Dalton? Is that the garage? No.
No.
There's that other building that's behind, that,
Oh,
doesn't the
that's
Historical
correct,
Society use
yeah,
that
but
for
it's-
storage?
Yeah,
Used to be the old store.
yeah, the old campground store.
Okay. All right, did anybody else have anything else on the warrant?
No.
I didn't mark it all up this time. It was lovely.
I move we accept the warrant as presented.
Okay.
All right, moved by Barbara, seconded by Carol. If there's no further discussion, Rick,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, look at us whooping right along here tonight. All right, next up, we have town manager's report. And since it's gonna be the interim town manager's report, because she's been the one on the job.
So the 8 Dalton route, the RFP, I don't have written updates, I'm sorry. So Corey's had some problems with that. He hasn't received any responses. He does have somebody coming to look. You do need to know there is no money to fix that route. And we have kind of brainstormed, and because we do not have the money in the budget, because we're looking at 15 to 20. We don't have time to do a warrant article to get that done this year. And if you want to get somebody in there, there is money in the recreation reserve account, and that's the only place that we can see to take that money from. There's about just under $100,000 in there, but at least it would get somebody in there. We would be getting our $1,800 back a month.
So in a year,
But the
we'd be
big
back.
thing is, he's already had 5 or 6 people at least that he knows just locally. Everybody's busy, nobody can do it till next year. He has one person coming over tomorrow, so he's hoping that maybe that's gonna pan out, and if it does, he wants to get something to the board for the next board meeting. So, because
I would think we could take that $7,500 that the select board has and could be used in that, because this is kind of an emergency.
I think we've already used some of that, didn't we, earlier
I
in
have
the year?
not very much of it.
Yeah.
I think you still have like 7,000 left in, maybe a couple.
Well, we could use whatever's left.
So I did bring this to you because I really do think that it needs to be looked at, the lease agreement with Perkins. She has been not very nice, not very kind at all. She's very upset. She's not making money. But when we went to pull the lease agreement, we find that there's an agreement and then there's an addendum. And there was something else that was written back in 2013 by Greg Gill, which offers other things to enhance that rental. So there are now 3 documents for that lease agreement. And, you know, I just think that the board, it would be prudent of the board to just take a look at it and, you know, maybe just review it and just some consolidation there. I know that the renter in 10 was giving Corey a very hard time because it's the end of the season. He wanted his dock in, and we looked and there was nothing there that said they even had a dock of their own, but they do. And it was in the document that was written by Greg Gill in the beginning. And so these people actually faxed it over to us. So.
Does
Corey
that
had
go
out
to
and-
just $10 or $8? Or to both?
For both, it's for use for both.
Oh,
So there are 3 different documents there, and so that's what I'm saying, it just, the whole thing package needs to be looked at. I know that there is a rental group here in Belgrade, and, you know, maybe we can do something locally. I don't know, it's just a consideration. It's been a little bit difficult to work with. So the other thing I just wanted to let you know, we had a $250 donation to the field fund last week when somebody came in to pay their taxes, so good things. What's next on my agenda here? The upcoming budget process, so the budget committee, we did meet, so Sarah Langat is your new budget committee chair.
Yeah.
She hesitantly took that job. Bruce Galush is your vice chair. Jack Sutton did not want to be the chair, and neither did Katie, and our only other person is Scott Ferguson. So he will be at the next meeting, and we're still one person short, but I have somebody that is supposed to be putting in an application, North Belgrade, Doug. He's a neurologist, that's all I know about him. So, not sure. So anyway, it was a good meeting. Some of the things that we talked about and discussed was the upcoming 2023 budget, the future of the snow plowing contract, because that is a huge concern financially. And
Yeah.
if the board is making a plan in town facilities, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at town facilities, and Chloe's going to be bringing some of those recommendations to you. So I think you're going to be a little surprised that the town needs to start paying attention to some of the town facilities and things that are going on. We talked about getting the Trio Wind Sketch program, which would free up some of our time in the front office, because we're spending at least 15% of our time running and getting tax assessing cards and sending them off to real estate agents. And so it's time consuming. If we're not getting phone calls for it, we're getting emails. So we talked also about a possible revaluation. Is that going to be something that we're going to be looking at in the near future? And the full-time budget for code enforcement officer has been proposed. So those are just some of the things that we talked about. To back up a little bit, the future of the snow plowing contract, I'm going to run that right into the road committee meeting. So the road committee is very concerned about the future of the snow plowing contract. It's really, you're only two more town meeting budgets until that contract is up. Really, you're only a year and a half when you count the months.
Right.
So I talked to Travis. He's not interested in continuing in any way. He doesn't even want to consider doing North Belgrade and then splitting up South Belgrade. And there's an interest there to maybe sell his equipment. So between the snow plowing and the fire department, there's been some discussion also with the road committee about what are our options for the DOT building up here, and obtaining that. Dan is very interested in doing something up there. The fire department has been looking at it, and he believes that the two groups of public works department, there's plenty of bays for the trucks up there and plenty of space for the fire department, that they could coexist in that location. However, that would mean that DOT would have to be willing to sell that property. So those are just some discussions that we're having on the budget committee. You know, they said they're not really interested in small items. They're really interested in big ticket items and what things are we going to have to do like that with the snowplow contract, and what we have to build for the future.
So by the
Immediately.
So by the fire department going in there, that would be a new location for the depot fire department?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if more land was needed, Dan McKenzie also said that he had spoken with Dave Stevens, and he was willing to give up land. So if more space is needed, but really it is a perfect spot for a public works department.
Right.
There's a lot. So tomorrow evening, I'm going to do the road committee meeting. Then got a pre-engagement meeting, so she's going to that. But I'll do the road committee meeting, and what they plan on doing is an exercise and what is it going to cost us to get a public works department going. So yeah, so that's I think that's about it.
And instead of reinventing the wheel on the public works department, if we can find
I looked.
the
I searched the whole computer mill, and I looked, and I did not find anything.
because Denny
say, is there a way that you can email Denny and ask him?
I
I know
can't.
he's gone for 2
Well,
months.
Denny's gone for 2 months on the
So we're looking for
vacation
around
of a
the
lifetime.
2010 timeframe, between 2010, 2015, I think it was one of Denny's first 10 years.
So Denny left in 2010, and
That's probably.
Greg was here from 2011 to 2016. So, and then Denny came back in 2018. I looked at things that were pieces of things, but nothing was put together.
What is it that you're looking for?
So when we previously looked at a public works department in the town of Belgrade and what it would entail, and what
Right.
the cost was, and it was overwhelmingly cost prohibitive.
Right, and because it was so long ago, maybe numbers and different things would change too, so.
I mean, you may not have a choice.
So just to wrap
Yeah.
up, the state
Well, there's always going to be a
assessment,
choice because it involves much more than just having a public works department. It involves hiring personnel, it involves paying
It does.
those people, it involves mechanics with a heavy duty, it involves, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
but what I'm stating is if there's nobody's gonna bid the bond
nobody,
contract.
Right.
there's
Yes,
no
you don't
have a choice.
opinion, that's it.
until
You're
we
looking
get-
at probably
get their
4
shows out.
full-time, year-round, at least 4 trucks that can plow and do 4 routes. Any other additional equipment you'll need. But it sounds like the snowplow contract people now are looking to maybe sell their equipment. If you hire the right people, they can do some of the work, maintenance, on the vehicles, and what they can't do, then you would have to send out, that's normal. You're looking at probably $1 million
Anyway,
just for an operating budget annually. That includes a public works complex, your public works meeting, your employees, the benefits, all of that, supplies, everything. And then that also includes summer roads, winter roads. So they would be doing all of the ditching and you know,
budget.
tree stop, potholes, culverts, mowing.
But a lot of that we're already paying for.
Right, but
The
yeah,
summer work, the
and
summer
all,
work.
yeah, public works would include, you could include all of public works, so the complex, public works itself, and then summer roads, winter roads, and then cemetery maintenance. Under that umbrella, you will run somewhere around $1 million annually for a budget. That includes paving. I included.
Yeah, because we
paving in
already,
that.
we already paid the road commissioner. We already have paving. We have a lot of this in our budget
Right.
already.
I
Right.
have
So
a
that-
breakdown of a current operating budget for public works.
Okay.
We just did it in Bill.
In Buckfield.
Wait, I just have a couple more things and then I'll just wrap it up. So I also printed off a copy of our state valuation. So if you go to the second page, under average ratio, like 2¾ of the page down, residential study, our average ratio, we're at 75%. We,
Where is it?
It's what she gave us
second
tonight.
page,
Oh, sorry.
under residential study,
Okay.
and our average ratio, we're at 75%. So we can certify 10% higher, which is what Rob did. Okay,
What is the
In 20
2022 figure?
that is the 2022 figure.
It's 66%.
No, so you're looking up too high. You have to go back, Lorna. Right there. 2022 is 75, 2023 is
you're absolutely right.
66. So next year we'll be at 76. You're gonna have to start thinking right now, are we gonna do a factor reval? Rob says he can do it for a certain amount of money, and which isn't a lot. It's gonna be a lot less expensive than doing a full reval. He could bring everybody straight across the board up 20%. So we could have Rob come in, talk to you about that, what that's going to entail. But right now, you will notice that everybody's homestead and then everybody's veterans exemptions are dropping. So the thing is that we don't want to get down below the 72% because that's when the state
It
starts
forces a full repel.
taxing, well, they start taking our tree growth reimbursement monies away. So we're already losing in a sense with the homestead and the veterans. One more thing that you need to know is that it is time now for a school cost sharing meeting. And I think that's every 5 years where everybody gets together. I would not have known about this unless Sarah Lane got in touch and said, Mary, this is going on. I don't have any details. Can you get the details? I emailed Carl Bartley, asked for details. He said it will be coming up shortly. He will send the details over when that meeting's coming up. So she was worried that it would pass us all by and we would not be notified. So anyway, just an FYI, there's an
That's a good
opportunity
idea.
for discussion on that.
Yes.
So just-
Mary, are you attending the road committee meeting tomorrow night?
I am.
I would
Yeah.
strongly recommend you tell them if they ever think about chip sealing the road again, to forget it. That's the most lousiest job I have ever seen in my life. I would not even put my name on something like that. That is terrible. That road, the Miners Hill Road is terrible.
Well, and I'm wondering, how long do we have? Do we let it set and then they come back and if it needs to be remedied? But there is already a pothole about this big started. There's a smaller pothole and there's like a jump in the road. It's not a big jump, but it's gonna be, and it's gonna get hit by the snowplows.
It's worse now than it was for the chip seal, so I.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we have any warranty on that, but if we do, we probably ought to be.
Well, we got a bill from them today.
Well, good. You tell them you ought to come in and see us.
Hold the bill.
I don't know if it's for that, but I know we got a bill from them today.
I think there's a one, I'm assuming we have warranties on the roads, and it's not.
Well, there should be, because it should be that the road commissioner goes out and inspects the road and makes sure that everything is done according to the specifications.
Part of the problem was, I think, is the chip seal, they didn't listen to the weather, and it poured within a few hours of them doing it.
Now, they came back on Saturday and swept the rocks all off.
Yeah, too quick.
I talked to another town that does this, and they said they've never seen anything like this before in their life, so.
When did they finish the project?
A couple weeks ago. 3 weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago.
So we're within 30 days.
It's terrible.
It is, it's awful.
So. who
And for
would-
somebody to say that's a great job, they must have not seen bad roads.
Well, I
we
would
just-
like to see Jason maybe take a look at it as the road commissioner, because he probably should be the one that heads up with the town manager if we need to go back
Yep.
to all for that.
We wasted good money.
So it'll save some of the pavement. All right, does anybody have anything else for this evening? All right, seeing that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
not
Dan, you
Hey,
want
You can't abstain, Dan.
right, no abstention, Dan.
No, I can't do that.
Oh.
you
No,
can
I'm
if
in
you
favor.
want.
I'm in favor.
You're in favor. Rick,
Yes,
thank you for staying up past your bedtime for us tonight.
way past it.
I know, I was watching the clock.
Melanie, if you want me to sign that contract, somebody's gonna have to bring it over to me.
Okay. I can do
She'll
that.
bring a treat. She already told me she's gonna bring.
No, I'm like, geez, there I go, sucking up my day off again.
I have zucchini bread.
Oh, I'll swing by Barbara's house first.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. I gotta have Barbara and Carol weigh in here. You ladies ready to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 5 in favor. Yeah, we're officially over and out. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
And Lorna made it through her first day.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
And she's still awake.
Imagine it.
probably not for long. You're driving home, right, Scott?
Yes.
Yeah, I say it's past 7:30. She's usually said she's usually in bed by 7:30.
30, 6 o'clock. I haven't sitting up later.
Okay, I stopped the recording. Are we
Yes.
ready to stop the meeting?
Yes, please
Yeah.
stop the meeting. Because my head's probably gonna spin and levitate here in about 1
Okay,
second.
bye, Dan.
Bye.
Well, maybe as long as we're not recording.
We're not recording.
Okay, Rick, are you still there? Did you sign
No,
off?
he's gone, just Dan.
Okay,
Yeah, I was surprised Ricky stayed as long as he did.
I was too. Hmm. Yeah, we probably gotta have a chat.
Do you have anything you put in numbers?
Okay, shall I end this?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
As long as it's not recording.
It's not
We're okay,
recording.
Just leave it open for a second.
Okay,
Because
hold on, Dan, if you can.
Yeah, I just want.
Yep.
I have something on my mind to discuss.
So there's no executive session posted. Is that what you're planning on doing?
I don't know what she's.
There's no posting.
I don't know what she's doing. She said we need to have a discussion.
Okay.
Ask her.
Melanie has-
She can move them on my desk.
Huh?
She can move them on my desk. I'll take care of them tomorrow. Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good night.
How was your day? How was your day? Is it okay?
Exhausted. You don't have one posted.
No,
Oh,
no, no, we're just gonna shut. Just gonna shut.
So just sign those and leave them on my desk right there and I'll take care of them.
Oh, and what I will do is I will try to connect with Ricky and Dan tomorrow, have the rest, the other two spots in the